Hello friends and welcome back. I'm Nick and you have arrived at MSFS Flight Plans, a channel dedicated to making sure you never have an excuse to do anything other than hop back in the sim. And if you've been around for a while, you know we do all kinds of cool stuff in here as we check out all kinds of cool places, and most of the time we're just taking really deep dives into locations you've probably already zipped over a few times without putting much thought to what's going on down on the ground. But every now and then we uncover a spot that it seems like no one even knew existed. There's no airports, no add-ons, no YouTube videos, and nothing even turns up when you try to do an MSFS Google search for it. And sometimes we hit the jackpot and find a place like that that actually looks good too. And I think we just set a new benchmark for that category. Today we're going to check out Possession Island, a tiny French holding about halfway between Madagascar and Antarctica. And this place is dark this time of the year because it's so far south, it's freezing cold, and it is extremely windy, as you can probably hear. And since we are in this remote, rugged wasteland, I figured the perfect chopper for this would be the Lama again, which I think the last time we took out was on that African safari freeware flight, if I'm not mistaken. And since this place is controlled by the French, I thought it only fitting to throw the French livery on it. So this is a freeware chopper, by the way. No, it's not freeware. You get it from flightsim.to, but that's the only place you can get it, I think. But it is Payware. It's like 25 bucks. And the guy that made him, I think his name is Taog, T-A-O-G. I'm not sure how you say that, but he's got two of them. And I think we've flown the other one too. But let's go ahead and get her started up. It's not too hard to get in there and get it going, so we'll take this up real quick. So I need to, let's see, I got my little checklist here. Battery, avionics, which I think are already on, the fuel valve open, pump on, the brakes are already in, so I'm just looking through these before I get away from the mic, and then hit the starter. Okay, easy enough. We'll turn the heater on too, because it's probably freezing. All right, so there's the pump and fuel valve on, and the starter's under here. I'm glad the lights are already on because it's a little bit dark in here, so we'll turn that on. Shut that. And now we have to wait just a minute for it to kind of get ramped up, and then we'll go ahead and throw the fuel on ever so slightly. All right, while that's going on, let's take a quick look at the Google Maps so you can see where this is. I'm not even going to look at little NavMap at the end, but here's where I was just kind of skimming around down here, as you guys know I like to do, looking for any little blips on the Google Map that might look like a good island to check out. And let me get out of here real quick. I'm going to go ahead and give it fuel so I don't miss the mark on that. And bring it back up. On little NavMap, you can hardly even see it. And so I found this place down here, way down here, and I was like, well, that looks pretty cool. And I was like, well, the landscape looks good, and you know, if it's at least got decent images in Google, it might have decent images in the sim and little NavMap. So this one was decent enough. Then I looked in the sim. All these other islands around here looked pretty bad. Some of them were completely cloud covered, some of them just had that blotchy stuff going on, but this one looked really good. So since there's no airport here, I just started off down here, figured I'd fly over it, see if the landscape really did look good. So I left from down here, got to right about here, realized it did look really good, so I decided I would abort the flight, get out, and we would check it all out together. So when you look at it in the sim, starting about here over, there's no satellite coverage, so it's all just blotchy. So what I think we're going to do, the only human spot down here where there's any people is right down here. So the next time for this trip, since there's no airport, I started right here and then just came down and landed at this little area here, which is where people who are coming to this place would get off the ship. So I'm parked right about in that spot there. So my plan right now, I think, since we're on the right side of this helicopter, we'll come up here, take a look at that little place. I'll tell you about it. I did find a little bit of information about this island, so I'll tell you about that too. Check out this coastline as we come around, and then we'll just kind of zip up this way, kind of zigzag back and forth here. See how close we can get to that before it starts to look bad, and then I'd like to try to land right down in here. Look at that thing. But it's very mountainous and very windy, and this is one of the more unstable helicopters, which I don't mind at all because it's fun to fly, so we'll just see how we do with it. Okay, so let me get little NavMap adjusted. So what I'm going to do for the flight plan, I'll load the flight plan, but I'm just going to trace out our flight path. So you can load the flight plan up just to find it in little NavMap, but you won't be able to load it in the sim because there's no departure or arrival airports. So that's it. Okay, I think we're pretty much good to go. All right, let's see how we do. So right now we have a 27 knot wind, and we're down here inside of these mountains. So let's see what happens when we come up here. And yep, there we go. And that's the direction it's coming from. All right. All right, let me get my keyboard pushed in there so it's not hitting my cyclic. Well, that water looks good, doesn't it? So when we're really close like this, I mean, this is really on the outer edges of where you get any satellite coverage at all. So if we're close, I imagine we're going to get some of that splotchy stuff. All right, I'm giving it a lot of right anti-torque pedal, and it's having trouble turning into this wind, but we're just going to work it. So the whole reason I was looking around on here is because I've been sick for a few days, as you might be able to tell from my voice. And I got a couple longer flights that I've been trying to map out, but I didn't want to wait another 3 or 4 days to get a flight up, so I figured I'd look for one of our little islands down here that didn't have a lot of stuff on the ground so that I wouldn't have to research anything. And when I found this, I figured we could just take it in as we're seeing it, so that's what we're going to do. So this area down here, again, appears to be the only human presence on this island. It's called... I'm flying directly into the wind right now. We're not going anywhere. We'll get kind of crosswinded here in a minute. We'll get it moving us. This appears to be the only place where there's any people on this island. And it's called Alfred Faure, F-A-U-R-E, Research Station. I'm not sure how long it's been here, but it's named after a guy who was down here doing some research in the 1960s. And it's manned by a staff of around 45 people that rotate in and out. I'm purposely hovering now just so we can look at that place while I tell you about it. And they come in at that little pier down there by where we left, right by that little waterway. The earliest record of human visitors that I could find was when one of the ships from the Ross expedition landed in 1840 to drop off provisions to a group of stranded seal hunters. And I couldn't find out what happened to those guys, so I don't know if they stayed stranded or got rescued by somebody else or what. Alright, let me just try to kind of get myself oriented here and along this coastline. And man, the weather changes really fast out here. So I took that initial flight probably an hour ago, and it was really cloudy and foggy. It looked really cool, actually. I was kind of hoping it would still look like that, but this is the live weather. Alright, so let me just trim down some, see if we can come into this wind. And now it is at 36 knots and pretty much a direct headwind. So I'm just going to keep giving it collective, try to get a little bit of thrust behind us, because I'd really like to check out this coast again. Alright, so that coast doesn't look real great there. That was kind of obscured by the fogs and the cloud before, so we'll come up here, get a little bit of altitude. Alright, so our ground speed is 35 knots, and you can see what our indicated airspeed is there, which works out right, almost 70. 35 knot headwind. Maybe once we get up over this mountain, I'm just keeping an eye on my torque and all that stuff, make sure it's looking okay. But this is just really cool. There's a couple of other islands between South America and Antarctica that do have some add-ons for them too, so they may be a little bit less obscure than this one. Alright, I'm just going to keep pitching down and see if we can get some forward momentum without sinking too much. But boy, it'll be easy to get moving once we turn into this wind, so we get a crosswind. Alright, so I think what I'm going to try to do... You know what, maybe if I hug this mountain it won't be so bad. Let's try that. I'm going to try to get down underneath this wind coming over the mountain here, and hopefully I don't get a big downdraft that slams me into the ground. If we can just get up over the top of it, we'll turn towards the, which I guess would be the west, and we should be alright. Wow. Alright, so now we got a 38 knot headwind. Maybe I should have picked a more powerful helicopter. Let's try getting on the other side of this mountain. Alright, so I'm going to give it some right trim and just lean into it. There we go. We're moving, but not real fast. So if you haven't heard of the Ross expedition, that was comprised of 2 British warships that left England in 1839 and were led by Sir James Clark Ross, hence the name. And they took warships for very specific reasons. They were both bomb ships, which were designed with reinforced hulls and timbers to withstand the recoils of the 3-ton mortars that those things carried. And since they knew that there was going to be a bunch of ice down here, they figured these would hold up a little bit better than the other ships. And they were right. They made it almost all the way around Antarctica and back to England in 1843, 4 years later. And I guess they found the guys when they first left. I think they left from Tasmania when they headed down here initially and kind of came west towards Africa and then came down. I found a little map of the expedition. So that was it. And along with being tasked with all kinds of geographic and botanical and zoological research, the main reason they were being sent down here was just to confirm that Antarctica actually existed, which I find just mind-blowing. Think about that. Less than 200 years ago, we weren't even sure if it was down here. And now we can fly across it in the comfort of our sim pits. Alright, so as soon as I get to the crest of this mountain, we're just going to turn towards the west. And then I'll probably have to lean the other direction because we're going to have that crosswind. Oh, that looks cool over there. That's going to be nice once we get there, assuming we can get there. Alright, I'm giving it more collective. Where's my torque? Alright, everything's looking good. We're in the green, so I'll just keep pushing it until it starts giving me warnings. Give it some pedal. There's a really neat looking little mountain lake up here that I came over the first time, and I took that trip over from the east. So we'll see if we can spot that. It's actually pretty easy to control when you're flying right into the wind because it's not trying to move that tail boom around. Once we turn sideways, it might be a different story. So just a heads up, if you want to take this flight, make sure you set your starting altitude something like, if you're going to start over the water, maybe 1,500 feet. Because it started me out at like 7,000 feet, and then I had to come down forever just to get close to it. Alright, that little lake should be right over this crest here. We'll see what we got. I mean, these mountains, I don't know how jagged they are in real life, but you know when there's bad satellite coverage, the elevation data is usually not great. Oh, there it is. There's a little lake. Alright, so once we get over that, we'll go ahead and turn to the west. Probably get a little bit of rough air as we come across this. But this is cool. I was looking for anyone to see if anyone had ever taken any flights over here. I mean, I didn't spend hours searching around on the internet, but I couldn't find. I searched MSFS, Possession Island, and I put the French version of this name in there and didn't find anything from anyone. So maybe we're the first simmers to ever come out here. Doubt it, but first ones to put a YouTube video up. Alright, well that looks pretty cool. Let's go ahead and just start turning now. Oh yeah, oh here comes the wind. Here comes the wind. And we'll get a little bit more elevation. Look at that down there. Oh, that's cool. Just to make the ground look a little bit less blurry if we can get higher. Oh boy. What the heck is that? You see that thing right in front of us there? On top of that mountain? Well, let's just head over there and check it out. Surely it's not like a tall tree or something. And there was nothing on the Google map other than that base by where we left from. No points of interest, no markers of any kind. Look at these clouds rolling over here. That is amazing. That is really cool. And the time of day is about 2 p.m. right now, by the way, and it is today's date. So if you shifted the month over to like December, it would probably be more light out because this is their summer months down here. Or it's winter months right now, but it would be their summer months if you shift it to December. Alright, I'm trying to come over this way so we can see whatever that thing on top of that mountain is over there. You know what, I didn't think to look to see if these are volcanic or not, but they don't. Although that looks like a little crater right there, doesn't it? I don't know if these are volcanic or not. I looked at some of the other islands around here, and I don't think the nearest ones had a volcano, but there was one a little bit to the east that appeared to be volcanic. Alright, after we see what this thing is, then we'll come over to our left a little bit and see how good that satellite coverage is over there. Since this isn't a really big island, then we'll try to land right over there. It won't take very long. Well, that certainly looks like a crater to me. But this doesn't have all the other hallmarks of a volcano. What the heck could that be? Some sort of research tower? Alright, let's drop the collective and sink down a little bit here. Get a close look at that thing. Oh boy. Boy, this thing just wants to point right into the wind. That's fine. I'm just going to let it do it, and we'll just sink here. We must be getting a huge updraft because I've got my collective almost completely down, and we're only coming down at 500 feet a minute. What is that? I'll try really hard to turn into the wind until the next gust comes. Boy, from up here, the landscape looks great. 100 feet above the deck, not so great. Alright, I've got almost full right anti-torque pedal. It's really wanting to point into the wind. That looks like a big observation tower or something. I wonder if that's an Easter egg they put in here, because there was nothing on the Google map anywhere else except for that base. Alright, I'm just going nose up a little bit to try to kind of stay stationary. That looks like an observation tower. But you would think if they built something like that, there'd be a road out here going to it or something. Alright, I've got the collective completely down right now. Which means, let's see, the wind would be giving us a downdraft here though, based on the way it's blowing. And now it's still at 38 knots. That definitely looks like an observation tower. I wonder what that is. Alright, when we're done, we'll pull up the Google map again real quick and just look over here to see if there was something out here. That's interesting. Huh. Alright, let's just come over here real quick if I can get over here because of the wind. If not, I'll just turn back around and we'll go land this thing. But let's see what else we got in store for us over here. Yeah, that wouldn't be... That definitely looks volcanic in nature. Certainly not an impact crater. But there's no, like, flows or anything coming from it? On the wiki page for this island, it didn't say anything about the geology of it, so I couldn't get any info about how this got out here. Alright, let's see if we can come up a little bit. I just want to peek over this ridge up here and see what we got. And you can see it just kind of ends on the other side there. And if I was reading it correctly, it said that there's only 2 types of vegetation that grow out here, so I don't think those trees are accurate. Probably like some lichens or moss or whatever those real close to the ground things are. But there's a ton of wildlife. They got killer whales and seals and all kinds of birds out here. But they said that part of the problem was that when people started landing on the island, it introduced goats, which they have since completely killed off. They took all the goats off the island, but black rats, which were a real problem for the bird life out here. So they said all the birds had moved up to the higher elevations because I guess the rats don't like to go up really high. But I guess they're still having rat issues out here. They probably forgot to put those little collar things on their ropes when they tied the ships up. Yeah, that kind of looks like, see all those trees? That's about where the line is for the satellite coverage to end. So it was just, the AI was just putting a bunch of trees out there. Alright, so let's turn back and go like 700 knots once we get that tailwind behind us over to the landing area. And this is going to be fun because it's tucked right into something that might actually be a volcano. Wait, what is that? Is that some water over there? What is that blue thing? Alright, we got to check that out. Let's just do it. Please be a downed alien spaceship. That would be incredible. We'd never be that lucky. Water, maybe? I don't know. Let's see. That's got to be water. A very poorly placed lake. Yeah, over here it's just getting too rounded out. But man, for a place like this that has any satellite coverage at all, way out here, this looks better than most of Antarctica. What the heck is that? I think that's supposed to be water. With trees growing out of it. Alright, we saw it. That's got to be the entrance to an alien lair. Because look, there's another one on the top there. That's where the flying saucers come out of. Awesome. Alright, so we'll come over this way, come over the top of this, and I'll come down in whatever is in the center of this mountain in front of us. Yeah, once you get about 1,000 feet up, 500 to 1,000 feet up, looks fantastic. Really good. I mean, look at that stuff in front of us. Even the cliffs going under the water look right. Man, we can't even get that up around the coast of Africa. Alright, how's our wind? 38 knots. Now it's a tailwind, so we're moving at 82 knots. Ooh, that mountain there doesn't look quite... Okay, so it looks like there's 2 little pits here. This first one, we'll try to go over that one right in front of us and see how it looks for landing areas. Yeah, that's a pretty spike-looking mountain in front of us there. But look at those little rivers and stuff down there. That is extreme detailing. Unbelievable. Oh, look at that. This kind of landscape should not be out here. Not at all. So when you get the world map in the sim, just look at some of the islands around here. They're terrible. I mean, there's literally nothing, just like a big blob. They didn't even attempt to put anything down here. Okay, so hopefully we'll get a little bit of shielding from this wind once we come into this thing. Oof. And while we're doing that, because it's probably going to take me forever to try to get this thing down, a couple of our announcements that we've got coming up. Again, the flight plan, at least so you can find it on a little NavMap, will be included in the video description, along with the link to our Discord server. If you haven't joined that, you're missing out on all the fun on this channel. We've got a really cool community of modders, simmers, developers, and just all around great folks in there, so hop in and join that party. I think we have a robust 40 or so members now, so it's still far from overwhelming. I cannot get over that scenery. Look at that. It's perfect. That's amazing. And upcoming flights, again, we've got a few long ones in the hopper. One of them is a member-recommended flight to Montenegro, which is amazing. I just need to find a really fast plane to check it out. I had never flown out there before. The scenery is really, really cool. We got a Greek Isles trip, which will probably be the next one. We're going to land at Santorini. Sorry, I'm just trying to survey the landscape down there. They just came out with a, if you've ever flown over Santorini, incredible place in real life, looked horrible in the sim. But this week they released a Payware add-on for the airport and the whole island. So it looks a lot better now, so that's where we're going to land. And then we've also got Detroit coming up and a few other cities I've got my eyeballs on. But if you have a place that you think looks absolutely awesome that we need to check out, join the Discord server, let me know where it is, become a part of our quarterly flight plan recommendation competition, where once a quarter, the sim community will vote on the best flight that was recommended by one of our members, and the winner will get a gift card to the sim vendor of their choice. We had 2 winners last quarter, a tie. Alright, so I'm thinking down by the water probably looks the flattest, and I want to see how this landscape looks. It appears to look amazing. Look at that! Look at the cliffs in front of us. That is a little bit of stretching over on the right there, but that is astoundingly good for this part of the world. Really good. Okay, so I think I want to try to get a tailwind so I'm not fighting this thing all the way down, which would be about like that. And then bring it down, right down there by the water. Let's see. Okay, so that should be a tailwind, so I'm going to have to kind of fight my way against that. What a cool area. Yes, there's better looking islands in the world, but you let me know if you've ever even heard of this island. Never mind flown to it. I'll eat my words. This is a real gem. Okay, collective is all the way down again. And we should just be sinking like a rock at this point, but we're not. But you know, once we get closer to the ground, it's just going to start falling, so I'm going to have to yank it up. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of ground effect to buffer that. Alright, I gotta remember to look at the Google map again when we're done. See if we can see what that tower was. Alright. Yeah, once you get close to it, not so impressive, but man. From normal flight altitudes, look good. Alright, now we're sinking quick. Alright, let me see if I can kind of come over here. It all looks about the same flatness. I should have gone out to that little island out there in the water. That would have been cool. Alright, we'll just put her down right here. Put her down and shut her down. Alright, easy does it. Keep a little bit of that right pedal in, because it will twist like crazy. Ground effects. There we go. Oh, it's grassy. Cool. And we're down. Alright, so let me just shut this baby off. We can do that by cutting the fuel off. That'll be the easiest way to do it. And yank the rotor brake. Still kind of creeping forward a little bit, isn't it? Alright, let's look at this Google map again real quick. See if we can figure out what that thing was. So let me just show you... Well, I'll leave the little NavMap off. You can check it out when you pull it up. So if this is where we landed, it was probably... What do you guys think? Right around there? So there's that little lake. We came over this way. And you can see there's no markers, no names of anything. It was on a really high point, and it was big enough that I think you would have seen it on here. It seemed like it would have probably been right about there. Alright, well, if anyone knows anything about what that could have been, please let me know, because that has definitely piqued my curiosity. That was an awesome flight. Short, but cool. Really cool. Part of the world that probably not a lot of people have ever seen before. So, it looked like right about here is where all the trees kind of took over, because we came over that ridge. There's that little volcano that we saw, if that's what that was. And then over here is where it started to get funky. And you'll see that's where that happens in the world map in the sim. And it just came over this way. This whole thing looked amazing. Really good. And then I'm going to guess we're probably right about here right now. So, very cool. Alright guys, so stay tuned for the Santorini flight. I think will be next. The Greek Isles, lots and lots of history around there. And for right now, my King Air analog is actually working, which is extremely rare. So that's one of the reasons why I want to try to get that flight in. Oh, and we've also got Turin, Italy. So that's coming up too. All kinds of cool places. And I cannot wait to see you all again in the skies. Later.